Imagine discovering a smoking, crashed UFO right in your own backyard. You hike into the woods, bypass federal blockades. You and others find bits of wreckage, and even get your hands on a leaked, classified VHS tape of a craft itself. You have the ultimate proof. Then, a tactical SWAT team kicks down your door. You are accused of trying to murder local politicians by slipping radioactive radium into their toothpaste. Today, we are digging into the massively underrated November 1992 Southaven Park UFO crash. We are weaving through the shady dealings of actions at the Department of Energy's Brookhaven National Laboratory, a federal insider who leaked footage, firefighters threatened into silence, and the horrifying treatment of a passionate investigator of UFOs named John Ford. Stay tuned.
Well, what has happened to me only proves one thing, that we are an effective organization. We've hurt the cover up, and this was done to destroy the organization and destroy me.
After watching the video, I'll ask you to comment your thoughts below by giving a score from 1 to 10, with 1 being a hoax, 10 being a real UFO crash followed by a cover-up. In this case, I did find myself getting emotionally pulled in to what I believe happened with John Ford. I do want people to make their own opinions on what happened at the end. Let's start with a very brief history of John Ford before the night of the UFO crash, as it is important to know and understand his character for the entire story to make sense. Ford was a member of the Suffolk County law enforcement system as a court officer for many years. According to coworkers, he helped bring numerous criminals to justice. His work would bleed into his other passion, UFOs. He wanted the world to know the truth. He created and was the head of LIUFON, Long Island UFO Network. Ford was an upstanding member of the community and would continue to head LIUFON, giving presentations to the community about UFOs. On November 24th, 1992, just before 7 p.m., a few Long Island locals would report seeing a large triangular aircraft holding a stationary hover. Apparently, this was not shaped like a conventional airplane, and it was hovering right over Southaven Park. Residents close to Southaven Park would witness a blinding bright flash, followed immediately by the concussive sound of crashing. Across the Shirley and Yaphank areas in Long Island, the community reported widespread losses of power.
I know that I saw night turn into daylight, so whatever it was very large and very strong, and nothing I'd ever experienced before.
A county police officer had come into the building asking to use a payphone, and he also seemed upset. He just said that there was some kind of UFO or something that flew over West Babylon and had headed east and crashed in Southaven Park.
John Ford was driving a couple miles away from the park.
Night of November 24th, I myself, who lived 3 miles from Southaven Park, lost my electric power and cable TV, while large military helicopters were overflying the area. I drove down in my pickup truck towards the area of Yaphank area and observed a raging forest fire deep in the woods and observed some sort of roadblock. These men were driving military vehicles that had no markings. They were dressed in paramilitary uniforms, black jumpsuits with green fatigue shirts underneath. 5 New York State police cars arrived at that location, were turned back by these men in black.
Immediately, 911 would be called, with fire crews rushing to Southaven Park. But according to witnesses and even anonymous firefighters, they would not be allowed at the scene, instead being turned away by people in military gear. Nearby Brookhaven National Laboratory, which shares a boundary with Southaven National Park, was said to have sent personnel directly to attend and assist, as they had federal-level fire suppression on the scene, reportedly. Local witnesses would also report seeing a massive, unidentifiable object hauled out of the park by being loaded onto a heavy flatbed truck and concealed entirely under thick tarps. Other locals reported seeing black, unmarked military helicopters that arrived with their lights cut, hovering directly over a supposed crash zone.
It was going on for like 3 nights in a row, with the helicopters and searchlights looking in the park. Something, I don't know what, crashed in in Southaven that night.
The park would be closed for days after. The park's reasoning? Duck hunting, of course. Along with the fire that didn't seem to exist.
It's obvious there was a forest fire here off the Sunrise Highway in Long Island. You can see the outside bark of the tree is burned. The Long Island Mutual UFO Network says the forest fire was started by debris from a crashing alien spacecraft.
We know Brookhaven Hamlet Fire Department responded to this location that night through information that's been supplied to us by 2 informants.
But what does the fire department say?
They have no records concerning any type of fire that night on November 24th, 1992. You explain that to me.
Once the park reopened, the LIUFON investigators, including Ford, another named Steve Ivorone, and others would go out every weekend to search the area. As is usually the case with these things, the crash itself is only the very beginning of this wild story. It wasn't long before they found some physical evidence. They noticed the trees looked burnt in some areas. They also noticed some trees looked sliced in some ways as if something had entered from flight. I've even found some supposed aerial photographs, after much digging, of the area before and after where a large chunk from this very thing may have come down. It's important to note that this craft was reported to have come down in pieces. It's certainly hard to verify, but a chunk of it did reportedly come down in a controlled crash. Not a confirmation, but an interesting impact site nonetheless. The investigators would also check for radiation and find some interesting results.
I was part of that first investigation. We found a fire cone, a yellow fire tape, "Do not cross" letters on it, which was interesting because they told us they were not in the park for the last 10 years. But what was most amazing of all was we actually found a radiation suit adjacent to the railroad tracks. This we found very puzzling because we know that people from Brookhaven National Laboratories wear suits similar to this, and we have witnesses that people with white radiation suits were actually in the park that night.
Take soil samples, and would even find small metal shards that would later be sent for analysis.
Fell behind police headquarters and also impacted inside Brookhaven National Laboratories. Well, we found a couple pieces of it. Several different types of materials. We found one piece that was made out of pure iron with no trace elements. Another piece was made out of highly polished platinum with traces of silver and nickel in it.
I've gotten some testing, some metallurgy reports of what John Ford says are pieces of that craft that crashed in Long Island. This piece, the flaky piece, the light flaky piece, is mostly aluminum. The other piece is mostly iron, but it's like 99.98% iron. The person who did the testing for us, an independent lab in this area, says that that is quite unusual. But it's all stuff that can be found on Earth.
Otherwise, that spot is now virtually clean except for the burned trees?
Burned trees.
There's nothing left, no debris.
No debris. There's also portions where the trees have been chopped in half by who knows what.
Of course, through all this, they were also looking to talk to witnesses and reconstructing the night of the crash. When LIUFON tried connecting with the local Brookhaven National Labs, they were met with outright denial on a surface level. Spokesperson Mona Rowe, a longtime employee of the labs, denied any involvement or UFO shootdown coming from the lab multiple times over the years, and wrote a follow-up article about it, saying it didn't happen. A couple problems with that answer. So there was a biohazard suit potentially from Brookhaven found in the woods, along with reports of anonymous firefighters saying they were stopped by federal employees.
Firemen who claim that they were dispatched to the crash site on the night of November 24th say they're afraid to go public with what they know. One apparently has been relocated to another state. Another says he fears for his job and his family. Yet, County Fire Dispatcher Miles Quinn vehemently denies that anyone from his department was dispatched on the night in question.
Probably from Brookhaven, but also, funnily enough, in 2024, testimony was entered under congressional record into Congress. We see, of all people, Miss Rowe actually reported to officials the night of the crash, seeing a UFO over Brookhaven. Whoops, nothing to see here. Actually, there is. Definitely an underlooked part of the story. Ford and the others continued to investigate, and they eventually made a pretty significant breakthrough. A mysterious insider eventually gave them a VHS tape Originally said to be filmed by a firefighter, then confiscated and then leaked by a Department of Defense official. The only full legitimate copy of the tape itself reportedly lies in the hands of Steve Iverone, at least as of 2024. Sadly, we really only see small snippets of this tape. I would love to have a full conversation with Iverone to potentially see the full tape rather than the bits and pieces we see attached to other media, as the cuts I'm showing you are all that remains. Obviously, it's hard to tell what's really going on. I am reminded though of the description of Roswell's almost tinfoily metal in this short clip here. Also, again, really hard to tell what's going on here. The officer's doing something and this almost body, I don't know. My mind's filling in the blanks here. Something's being stood up over here.
In spectrum analysis, you burn a material and you look at its chemical composition. There are also databases principally used by firemen. When they arrive at a scene, they can videotape flames and fire, compare it to a database, and know if it's wood or oil or plastic. This is a metal that is burning at high temperature. It didn't fit the normal characteristics of fire that would be in this electro-optical database. I believe it's a very advanced government project that for the safety of the people in the area, the events that happened are masked, or it's an exotic spacecraft.
Again, the craft was said to be broken up, so not a large, smoking, full, intact saucer. Makes sense if this was actually shot down by Brookhaven National Labs, as asserted by John Ford and others, and as we see again as entered into Congress in 2024. Ford and LIUFON kept investigating over the years, gathering more data, requesting more information from local government leaders, and of course, getting stonewalled. All the while, Ford was giving public demonstrations, looking for more witnesses to the events, and getting louder about the incidents, wanting the truth. LIUFON's newest member, Joe Mazzuchelli, who's extremely hard to find information about, and I personally think for good reason by the way, immediately moved into Ford's house after befriending him. Only a few months after Mazzuchelli moved in with Ford, police would raid Ford's home. They would accuse him, Mazzuchelli, and later a third member of LIUFON named Edward Zabo of being charged with an almost fictional sounding plot to assassinate 3 local politicians: Suffolk County Republican Chairman John Powell, Suffolk County Legislator Fred Towle, and Brookhaven Conservative Party Chief Anthony Gazzola by planting radium on their toothpaste. Ford's phones had been tapped, and police overheard a supposed plot.
Our part in this was to make sure the radioactive material was safe and that there was no contamination from it, because that's the job of this group. It's the Radiological Assistance Program. It's a federal program set up to protect the public from radiation.
And there was no leaks, no public health threat?
No leaks, no contamination. We've surveyed the area, we've surveyed over and over, and the material is now gone. We surveyed again, and everything's just fine.
Okay. I don't know if the folks caught a glimpse of what was being taken out of this house, but handfuls of rifles and other weapons we've been seeing are being taken out by police. We don't exactly know what is going on as far as how this all ties into the radioactive material. The Suffolk County DA's office all they'll tell us is that this is an ongoing criminal investigation. They'll have a press conference later in the day to tell us exactly what's going on. However, as you can see, there were weapons taken out of this house, radioactive material was found, and of course this is a very unusual situation in a neighborhood like this one.
The police and federal agents took guns, radium, and all of Ford's physical UFO evidence and files from his home, except for the tape, which Iverone had in his home hidden. Couple things here to branch out and investigate from this wild accusation. First is the idea itself. After researching for this project, it seems many experts were extremely skeptical that ingesting radium actually posed a serious immediate threat to these politicians.
Are very strict regulations for getting radium, so it's next to impossible to find. And for years, it was common in the medical field, but it has been out of use now for about 15 years. Experts say you can't taste it or smell it, and they say it would take a very long time to kill someone by exposing them to radium. Experts say in the short term, low doses of radium wouldn't do much harm, but in high doses, it would cause nausea, diarrhea, and flu-like symptoms. It would attack the bone marrow, including the white blood cells, and it could damage the intestinal tract.
Apparently, it would have taken 30 or so years of these men ingesting toothpaste with trace amounts of radium to seriously feel the effects and pass away. It's not an extremely poisonous substance type thing. We actually hear from a difficult to find phone call with John that the radium was actually used for their Geiger counters for their UFO investigations. And John and his fellow investigators had been using these Geiger counters for years and investigating UFOs for years, which is why he had radium.
It was harmless. It was radium. Calibrated my Geiger counters. We had just bought 3 or 4 new Geiger counters for the organization, and they needed to be recalibrated rather. Now, I don't know how we could have gotten it inside the toothpaste, but it was about the size of a quarter, very small. Gave off high radiation readings, but it was totally harmless. It was a radium plug that was used for testing purposes on aircraft frames.
Edward Zabo has almost no information about him online, much like Mazzuchelli. However, you can find he was a longtime employee of one Northrop Grumman, a defense contractor at the Long Island location. Northrop Grumman is rumored to be connected with the UFO phenomenon.
Marinello claims that Zabo's radium was harmless.
My investigation discloses that the radium that was allegedly supplied is incapable of harming anybody.
But Zabo is also facing dozens of weapons and explosives charges. Right now, Zabo is still getting paid by the Department of Defense for his job here at Northrop Grumman. But a proposed suspension could stop him from getting his paycheck as early as next week. A spokesperson for the Department of Defense wouldn't comment on whether or not Zabo may have taken the radium or anything else from their facilities.
We see that they are inspecting where the radium was even taken from. We never got that answer, but if we remember the tape, it was originally filmed by a firefighter, confiscated, then leaked.
If it came out that I spoke about this, I would be in a life-threatening situation because it would fall into the realm of national security. And at that point, they have the option of terminating me.
Was the tape leaked by Zabo with his Northrop Grumman connections? It's a theory if the tape is real. Next, we have Mazzuchelli. Mazzuchelli, like I said, has very little online. He's often described as a petty criminal in what we can find. He all of a sudden moves in with Ford. In what leaked audio we can find, he is seemingly pushing Ford towards this hasty decision, almost tricking John.
Hello? Yeah, where you going? I got an idea to appease the asshole, John. What? The 380? Yeah? I'm gonna give back to him. Okay. All right? This way, kind of like appeases him for a little bit. I'll get it back, ain't no big deal. Yeah, well, he's got it in the backyard. Yeah, I know, I kind of figured that. Hello? Is John ready? John has picked up that package. Okay. Like I said, the man is doing the right thing. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And he's got the mask and the blanket and everything else for that other shit. Okay. Big time hot. How active is it? Very active, I understand. All right, look, I'll see you in an hour. All right, bye. Okay, sure.
Mr. Mazzuchelli said to me, let's talk about the radium you got. I would like to see if it's able to be used as a weapon. I said, I doubt it. It's not that highly radioactive, just to be calibrate the Geiger counters. So he said, well, do me a favor. He said, when Kevin gets here, play it up. That it's dangerous, this, that, and the other thing. And I said, why? He said, I want to scare their pants off of them. So he said, okay, well, as long as it's just a practical joke, he said, yeah, that's something like that.
Then there's traces of articles like this that are hard to find but still floating around. Quote, one of 3 men accused of conspiring to poison Suffolk County political leaders with radium, was jailed without bail yesterday, at his own request. Let's get this over with. Hold me without bail, Joseph Mazzuchelli told Suffolk County Court Judge Anthony Corso. The judge granted his request. Personally, I try to deal with facts. Hulu has a show called Crimes of the Paranormal, Episode 2, which covers the Long Island UFO crash. It has audio from Mazzuchelli, and it personally leads me to believe Mazzuchelli was brought in to set up Ford. I'm not necessarily saying that Mazzuchelli was brought in to set up Ford for a UFO conspiracy 100% confirmed. It could be a small local politician setup as well, but it just seems like he was set up. Both Zabo and Mazzuchelli take plea deals and serve small sentences of 1 and 3 years in prison. Ford, meanwhile, did have guns in his home, yes, that were taken, but he was an avid gun collector. Every single gun he had in his home was owned legally. Remember, he worked decades as a law-abiding citizen, working in law enforcement as a court officer. He had no criminal history, no episodes of mental illness. Ford was at odds, most notably with Republican Chairman John Powell. He felt he was getting stonewalled in his UFO investigation. But Ford stated the tapped phone conversations were not in the slightest serious, and he would never harm anyone. Ironically, 2 of the 3 accused politicians would later be found guilty of corruption. Powell getting caught taking illegal bribes barely less than a year later. Remember, Zabo and Mazzuchelli took small plea deals of 1 and 3 years in prison. As for Ford, because of his beliefs in UFOs, Ford was declared unfit to stand trial. That means he wasn't sentenced to prison. He was committed to a maximum security asylum, the Mid-Hudson Psychiatric Center. While he was moved to a facility with less security in 2019, he has been in an asylum ever since 1992. He is still there today.
I'm in good health, good spirits, and I intend, once I get out of here, to start the organization. You know, they think I'm crazy because I believe in UFOs. That's the main reason they sent me up here. When we disclosed the Southaven Park incident to the public, I was informed by the contact I have in the intelligence community who calls the Suffolk County government a lot of problems.
I really want to stress what this means. The federal government raided his house, took his physical evidence of a UFO crash and cover-up, and many more UFO cases. He tried to fight that. Because he tried to argue that in court rather than take a plea deal, the court ruled him delusional based on his belief in UFOs, and he didn't even get to go to trial to defend himself against potentially bogus claims. So guess what? They didn't have to return his files. They didn't have to bring anyone to the stand. No discovery process took place. No interviewing of Zabo, of Mazzuchelli, of the politicians. Even the Department of Energy might have been brought in, even the fire department. A man has spent 34 years in an asylum, and if you listen to the snippets of audio that have been released, he does not sound crazy.
What has happened to me only proves one thing, that we are an effective organization. We've heard the cover up, and this was done to destroy the organization and destroy me.
Again, I want to hear your score on a scale from 1 to 10, with a 1 being a hoax and a 10 being a crashed craft with a cover-up. I'm going to go with a 9 on this one. Most of the time I can keep myself pretty neutral on these cases, but this one has me feeling very, very frustrated. I will go out and say it. I think something happened here. I think Ford was set up. There was a cover-up of some sort. I'm not saying it was 100% an alien spacecraft, and I'm not saying that this video is legit, but I do believe Brookhaven was involved that night. They may have even shot a craft down. It might have been a military craft. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's my theory. Justice for John Ford. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you want to see next. Stay curious, Catch you next time.